Hey everybody, welcome to Two Simple Dudes. My name is John.
And I'm
How you
Dale.
doing, Dale? I hope you had a good week.
Yeah, I had a pretty good week, let me tell you. Today's Sunday, by the way, folks. What is it? May 18th. Oh my gosh,
Yep.
2025. And great week, but boy, was I glad the weekend hit. The weekend was or the week
Oh
was a
no.
hard one.
Well, I hope it gets better for you next week. What? Anything to share with us, or just let it go?
Just a lot
Hmm.
of work.
Well,
Just a
a
lot of
lot of
work
work
at
at work.
work.
It's funny how that shows up that way. Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
where I was, we ended up we finished what called the Tulip Festival, and so I got done working that and volunteering at that. So we'll be starting something new here next month, but. That's just the way it is. So it's all fun. But today we're going to talk about diabetes. Is that all right with you? Do you know anything about it?
Oh yeah. Yes,
You
I've
got
got
it.
it.
Well, I've had it for a long time too. And I want you to know the world was totally devoid of diabetes until I went to my doctor in December of 2006. All right. I went into that doctor's appointment perfectly healthy. I was just fine. There wasn't anything wrong with me. And about an hour later, I walked out and I had a chronic illness. I felt sick. I was mad at the world, and the whole world just fell apart. He told me I had type 2 diabetes. And then when he told me that, I said, "What? What is that? What do you mean?" Well, is anybody that's had their 50-year-old, I call it interview, doctor's appointment, I walked in there. And it's because you're encouraged to get a doctor's appointment or have some health checkup when you turn 50. I don't know, maybe it was just the company I was working for and the insurance we had. But I walked in there and he told me that. And he of course did a blood draw, did all that kind of stuff that they do, I guess they do to everybody. And he said, "Wow, I should maybe send you to the hospital right now." I said, "What?" "I feel fine. I'm okay. What's the problem?" And he said, "Well, you've got this type 2 diabetes, and the number that I'm seeing on you, you could be blind tomorrow and have a kidney problem and be in a serious way." I said, "Oh, well, all right." And so we talked about it a little bit, and I came home and I changed my lifestyle, at least for a while. And I was pretty aggressive about managing it for a while. Then I got old. Anyway,
Hey, let me interrupt there, John. So was he quoting your A1C reading? And if so, do you remember what the number was?
I he told me it was above it could not read it. It was too high. That's what he told me. It was yeah.
Wow.
And it he said it's got to be above 14. Okay?
Okay,
That's
that is
high.
high.
That's
That
real
is
high.
high, but
Yep.
17's high. They can do
Yep.
that.
Yep. And he told me that you're sick, you got to take care of this, you're going to have real problems. So, what was your initial experience if you don't mind me asking?
Oh no, I don't mind. I think the highest I was ever at on A1C
Oh,
was
10.
10,
Wow.
or maybe 10 and a half, and but then I got it down to 7, and then 8.5. But I experimented with food. Try this, don't try that, and got off sugar, and that helped a lot. That helped a ton. But I was still doing carbs, and anyway, were you a
Uh,
sugarholic at all?
yeah, I was drinking a gallon of Mountain Dew straight every day. Yeah,
Okay, well
that
that
could
could do it.
that could do
That
it.
could do it, I
That
think.
could do it. And so
Well, and were you a cookie, cake, ice cream nut of
I
any
was all of
kind?
those things. So yeah, I did all that stuff because I didn't have any reason not to. Right? I just was living my life and happy as a happy as a clam, I guess, surrounded by sugar or whatever you want to say. But yeah, that was my experience. And I guess maybe some people at work mentioned diabetes, but I didn't think anything about it. And so, yeah, that's my story on that. That's how. So anyway, that's when the world was introduced to diabetes, right there. And so it changed my life. And I when I was first diagnosed, I got really paranoid, which you should be, right? You should be. And so I started working out, eating healthy. I didn't go to church activities because I didn't want to be tempted to eat chocolate cake or whatever they have there. You, I don't know if anybody's experiences with church activities and food are like mine, but the food ain't healthy. All right.
Well, that's certainly a clever way to get out of church. I never thought of that. All right.
Hey, honey, I can't go to church today because I'm sure the whatever it's got chocolate.
They're going to serve chocolate cake. I
Yeah,
can't
they
do
they
that.
must be having chocolate covered sacrament something. And I can't go there anyway. So yeah, but yeah, it was eye opening and a whole new. It really kind of upended my world. You know what I mean? And it sometimes, and I've had it now. Let's see, I'm 69 now, so it's 19 years that I've been battling it, and it's what you call a chronic disease, and it's something. It's I think it's kind of like cancer because you don't cure it. It just goes into remission. Okay, it doesn't really. You can always have it. It'll always show back up if you get off track, right? So, and it's kind of like with cancer, it can pop back up. And so, anyway, that's
And John, I'm hearing that a third of the world
mm,
maybe are diabetic or
hmm
pre-diabetic. And so my question to you is, why do you think we get it? Is it just sugar? Is that what's causing
well,
this?
I've my research has shown that there's two types of diabetes. One is type 1, which they used to call juvenile diabetes when you had it as a kid. You were just born that way. All right. And so anyway, then there's type 1 for youth, and that's when you get when you're young, like I just said. But then type 2 is adult onset diabetes, is kind of what they refer to it as. And then that is, of course, what I have, and I'm assuming that's your case probably too, as well as a lot of people. And that is brought about by dietary habits or lack of exercise, being sedentary, those kind of things. Now, I believe that is, and this is going to be somewhat of a controversial statement, but I believe that it's brought about in our Western world for sure because we have it a great deal because of our eating habits. Our whole agribusiness or our whole food industry is inclined to create food products that would bring about diabetes or display it. And I want to say that it displays it because if my doctor told me that if anybody lives long enough, they'll become a diabetic. Their body just shuts down the insulin production in the pancreas and other things that go on. And so you'll become a diabetic. But with our food intake, like me, I was just eating to be happy, you know. And they're at a point, and I was lighter than this when I went in for my 50-year-old appointment, but I got up to 250 pounds, and on a 5'11" frame, that's pretty beefy. All right, and so, but I started losing weight just because I wanted to before my 50th birthday, but when I was 50, I weighed around 230 maybe, something like that, and so I was still a little heavy for me in my frame. And so, yeah, I was just eating because I wanted to, not because I needed to for health purposes. And so that's,
Uh, you know, you and I'm sorry to interrupt. I think it's important that people know who are listening to this. We're not doctors. We're not health professionals. We're just common everyday citizens like you all are. And I, you know, maybe we're not spot on exactly accurate on some of this stuff, but based on our experience is what we're talking about. I think I got it. Number one, I ate a lot of sugar like you, and I gained weight, and diabetes came. And I've noticed that as I've lost weight, diabetes has reduced. So, but you got to remember, and I mentioned this on last week's podcast, that I'm doing carnivore diet, and so it's kind of hard to raise your sugar on that. So, but I mean, what are the other reasons, John? Any other reasons why people are hitting this? I mean, in Africa, I think they're probably mostly diabetes free, I would
Mm.
guess. Because don't they eat better, or do you know
No, I
that?
don't know that they do or don't. The research that I've done is that it's kind of swamping the world. The world's kind of becoming overwhelmed with it, and so I'm not. I don't know the statistics on that, Dale, as far as worldwide stuff. I didn't really look into that, but my from what I've been told, now there's two different. Okay, let me get back up here to my notes. Sorry about that. But with type 1 diabetes, it's because your body's not producing the insulin that it needs, or it doesn't make insulin at all. Okay? And so that's why in your youth you have to take the insulin injections and maybe go through those other treatments that they have there for the youth. Now, as far as adults go, it's where the body doesn't respond well to the insulin that you have or your body is producing. Okay? And so that means that yes, your body is producing it, but insulin resistance is caused when your muscles on the organs cannot absorb the glucose, all right, and pull it out of the bloodstream, and the bloodstream being full of glucose causes causes diabetes, and then that sugar or glucose goes throughout your body and starts impacting your kidney, your eyes, and various other organs that deals with it. So
Well, my understanding too is that your heart is a real target on diabetes, not just your eyes, of course, but heart. I keep hearing my doctor told me that most people in diabetes will die of a heart attack. Now I don't know how true that is, but that's been his experience, I
yeah,
guess.
okay. Well, I'm not going to argue with your doctor, and I don't know anything different. So, but it's when your organs can't absorb it and you can't handle it right. That of course then leads to those symptoms that we were talking about. Um, and so that's basically the bottom line. Some people might get a big idea that they can beat diabetes or deal with this insulin problem by going with alternative type medicines. And I have run across, and maybe you have too, Dale. I've seen now. I okay. I like TikTok. Do you like TikTok?
I
Oh, you
don't
don't
even
use it.
use it.
Okay.
No.
Well, between that and other short reels, and Facebook has their shorts and reels and whatever they got going on. But you'll see these little things pop up where there's a parasite in your pancreas. Well, that's bogus. There's no such thing. My research indicates that that's all not true. Okay, and so you don't want to get caught up in doing that. And like we've said before, and well, like with your discussion last week about the carnivore diet, talk to your doctor. We are just simply sharing with you what we know about these subjects that we talk about in today's diabetes. So talk to your doctor.
Well,
Go ahead.
can I
No, you
interrupt?
can't. I don't
I'm
want you to
sorry.
interrupt.
I you made you made something come to mind. I asked my doctor just straight on. I said, "Look, is it possible to really get over diabetes, to throw it in remission, to throw it in reverse, whatever you want to say, to get that A1C down under, I think they wanted under 6, maybe 5.5, something like that." And he said, "Absolutely, I have it happen quite a bit." But the other thing, there's a doctor who wrote a book, and he works very much with diabetes. His name is Jason Fong, Fong. I read his book, and he said, it's interesting. People in my business, we see people using insulin, and they'll do it for years and years, and then eventually you'll have to deal with the kidney problems. We'll stick them on dialysis, and then we'll have to do an amputation of one of their limbs because of the diabetes, and of course we see people die of this stuff. And I think it gives hope that yes, you can throw it in remission if you want to call it that. Yes, you can get it down. It may not be much fun. I gotta tell you. I mean, every now and then I get a craving. I mean, it's not strong, but I get a craving where I want sugar. But it gives me hope that I'm not under a death sentence.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on
Oh, yeah,
that,
I
my
agree with
friend?
you. And I got to the point where I was exercising 2 hours a day, swim, bike, run, getting ready to do some triathlons and all that kind of stuff. My A1C dropped to 5.5. Okay. And so, yeah, and I went into the doctor seeing that after that occurred, and he says, well, I thought you had diabetes, but maybe you don't. And then I went back. Then I
No,
went back
no,
in a year later, and he said, "Oh yeah, you have diabetes." So yeah, it can go up and down,
no.
Dale. It's true, it can.
So did you fall off the
Yep.
wagon? And go back to the sugar
Yeah,
and
but not a
stuff
whole
like that?
lot. I didn't have to do a whole lot, and that's what's unnerving about this for me, and that's my experience. Okay, is it's a slippery slope, and 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 I'm to the point now where my numbers, quite frankly, right now are not very good. They're not very good. But I can eat salads. I can eat what they would might recommend for me to eat, and my number is still high. So I have, and if I throw it, then I have to do the exercise too. I'm afraid, and sometimes I'll be honest with you, I just get lazy. I just get lazy. I don't want to do it. But there you go. I guess I have to. That's me. What about you?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Uh, I lost 60 pounds a long
Mm,
time ago. It was probably about
yeah.
2006,
Okay.
actually, the time. And I thought, well, that was pretty easy. And all I did was oatmeal and cut down portions and just eat healthy. And I stayed away from sugar. Actually, I became a vegan for
Wow.
6 months.
That worked for you?
And I went without sugar for 6 months. Yeah, it did, but I didn't know I had
Oh,
diabetes, so I didn't have readings on that. Did I go in for checkups? I think I did, but uh, I was borderline diabetic, is what they said, and I'm just well, it's borderline. It's not true
not worth
diabetes
worrying
yet.
about.
So, you know, I think I was still invincible in my mind, and um, I, I think eating sugar, gaining weight, and lack of exercise will
Hmm.
does this. The standard American diet, I've heard, and again, don't quote me, folks. I hear that the wheat we're eating today is not the same as the wheat they ate 200
Exactly
years
right.
ago.
I've learned that too.
That Yeah. Now you used to be a
Yeah, I didn't
farmer.
raise
I
wheat though.
mean, you yeah, you didn't raise wheat, you raised soybean. But is the soybeans that you raised, were they the same as 200 maybe years ago?
Of
I
course
don't
not.
know. They're genetically modifying these things, and one of the theories is that the wheat that we use is inferior for humans. That it's not the nutrient dense same makeup that the old wheat was. So that's one theory
Hmm.
I've heard.
Yep. And I agree with you that my research has indicated that that is the case as well. Because I've tried to look at all different types of food, what's going on with it for me. Because I eat quinoa, I eat all kinds of healthy food, but I still have a candy bar once in a while. And the Cheesecake Factory opening up 2 miles away didn't help. You know what I mean?
I bet they had to call the police to get you
No,
out
they
of there.
didn't. I crawled out on all fours, but yeah. So we're just, and that's the thing, Dale. We're surrounded by a bad dietary habits. Sugar.
Sugar.
We're surrounded by sugar because
Yeah.
it makes us want more, right? And that way, of course, we eat more. And so yeah, I agree with you altogether.
Yeah, what else does your research show? I mean, is it your opinion? I gather it is that you can put this in
Yeah.
remission, number one, but yours is no sugar, diet,
Mm-hmm.
exercise, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Any other tips?
Well, yeah, of course. Now, okay. Now let's talk about something that's kind of new. Maybe they're trying to improve their product line, and that is zero sodas, like Mountain Dew Zero. Okay. It has no carbs, no sugar, no fat. I call it my health drink. All right. But but you see, it's got aspartame. Now, is that bad for me as a diabetic? I don't know. I should maybe look it up and find out. But so go ahead.
I, well, I've heard that artificial
Yeah.
sweeteners, that's just the worst thing you can do.
Yep.
I think some have said it's worse than sugar. I
Oh,
don't know, but
well, okay. There you made me feel bad about buying that 12 pack of Mountain Dew Zero this week. But yeah,
you better
I got
drink
it.
it
I'll drink
fast.
it
Yeah.
fast and get it over with.
Or better yet, just go in the backyard and just dump it. Throw it in the trash, be done with it, and just say, okay, that was a $10 mistake or
What'd you
whatever it
say?
was.
Oh, Dale, you were static me there. I didn't hear you that. Okay. Send me an email
Oh,
on that one, would
just
you?
yeah, just dump it. Just
Yeah.
dump it.
Well, and that
You know
yeah,
what I'm
and that
saying.
might be true. Artificial. I don't know. I haven't looked into artificial sweeteners. Is that your experience? Have you learned that? Have you seen that somewhere?
Well, I've seen that in places, and of course now you got to remember now I'm talking from a carnivore
Oh
diet
yeah.
standpoint, and especially for me, I've heard the carnivores say, hey, don't do any sodas. You don't need it. They just drink
Yeah.
water. They even got a thing against coffee. They've even just anything, iced tea, the works, and I and butter. That's the only dairy I think they
Hmm.
use, and they use that
Wow.
sparingly. So and cheese. And that's another one they use. That's the
Is that
other
a good
dairy.
one? Is that a good?
Um,
Because I eat cheese. I have cheese on my
well, they
veggie.
they they recommend. Yeah, they recommend using it as a condiment, not as a big hunk of
Hmm.
cheese. Use it sparingly as well, but the carnivore diet. Sorry, I'm not trying to turn this into
No, that's
last
fine.
week, uh, but that's my perspective now, and that's why my sugars have come way down. And I guess I'm repeating it again in case people want to check into that and see if that might be an answer for them if they're desperate. Um, like you and I said last week, I'm tired of being dependent
Yeah,
on a
me too.
drug. I'm tired of spending tons of money on insulin and things like that. Um, I'm just I'm of the opinion, and I could be wrong, that that you can beat this without the drugs, but I'm not suggesting get off
Yeah.
drugs. I'm saying I'm saying, give yourself insulin when you need insulin. And type ones, they'll never be off insulin, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's what.
Type ones, it's a lifetime
Yeah, it
thing,
is. It's
isn't it?
just the way it is, and that's you have to accept that and move on, and be grateful for the drugs that are available to you to fix it with, or at least put it, deal with it somehow. So,
I want to insert one thing, John. Sorry. I was in the hospital 4 years ago with a brain
hmm
bleed, which was, kind of serious. And my diabetes
oh
was out of
wow,
control. And whether the two are connected, I don't know, but it was out of control. And I had doctors who were diabetics from the Diabetes Foundation coming into my room and educating me about diabetes. Every single one of those guys was a type 1
really?
diabetic. And yeah, because I'd ask them, do you have diabetes? Yes, I do. I've got
Hmm.
type 1. Um, well, so does this mean I just can't eat anything but cardboard
Yeah,
and
that's what
water?
it means.
And they said, no,
If it tastes good,
yeah,
spit it out.
no, if it tastes good, spit it out. Well, they said, no, no, you can eat, but you got to cover it with
Mm,
insulin. And there are doctors now. Type 1, I get that. On type 2, yeah, you got to cover it with insulin, but you can be working on other methods to get that sugar
yep.
down so that you can reduce the insulin or at least get off of it. And I've heard of this, but again, the opinions vary as to how
Right.
to do that.
Well, my doctor, when I was talking to her just a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm tired. I told her what we just said. I don't want to. I don't want to do more drugs. I want to get off insulin. Yada yada blah blah. She says that's okay. You can do that, but use the insulin and start doing your exercising. Do everything that you think you want to do to deal with it, but take the insulin until it gets down to where it's managed, and then wean yourself off the drugs. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that's what I have to do. And so yeah, I'm going to share something kind of not personal with you, but I when I back when I was first diagnosed, I did a lot of running and walking and riding a bike. I could ride my bike up to the top of the mountain, South Fork Mountain, 28 miles round trip. I got to the point where that was normal. I could do that. I was healthy, and I got down to about 175 or 180. I lost that 80 pounds, and I was great. And I was in good shape, and then I just stopped doing it all. It was probably because it got cold. Okay, but so my point is just do what you need to do to manage it, and if you want to get off the drugs, just do what you know you want to do to get off the drugs, but keep taking them until you're actually at that point where you need to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and but there's people listening who can barely get out of their
Mm,
chair. I mean, I talk about being 300 pounds, and I find that to be just obnoxious. There are people 400, 500, 600 pounds or
mm-hmm.
more out there, and they're not going to be riding bikes. I don't even know if they can
Right.
walk, very well. Any ideas for them?
Well, boy, that's
That's a
a
hard one.
that's a
That's a
tough
hard
one,
one.
Dale. You might in that situation, you might have to go into some kind of what do they call it? Um, a situation where you move in somewhere, and maybe have your insurance cover whatever cost that might be, and they help you manage it and very actively. You're getting active professional input all the time, right? And
Well, then there's a good idea
yeah,
right there. I didn't even
yeah.
think
Now
about
they
that.
might be able to do it for you in your home, but I guess in that situation, you would need to just consider yourself a permanent patient, right? That's your status. That's what you do for a living, is you're a patient, so they can diagnose you and help you get better. But boy, I'll tell you, I don't have anything to say. I really don't. I don't know what to do about that. That's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, well, and my first thought is, well, walk as much as you can until you're
Yeah,
winded, and then sit down. That may
they
be 10
it
feet.
might
I don't
be.
know. I mean,
Mm.
um, you could do dumbbells, I think, and we're talking
Oh yeah,
lightweight. We're talking five,
sure,
10 pounds, whatever. I think they have them at two and a
probably.
half
I.
pounds. But you could do that with
Mm-hmm.
arms, and I've seen exercises where they'll sit in a pretty solid chair and they'll do
Oh
leg
yeah.
lifts off
Mm-hmm.
the ground and just
Mm-hmm.
straight out, and they just do that until they can't, do it anymore. Um, and they get in the habit. I don't believe exercise for our level needs to be a no pain no gain
Mm-hmm.
situation. I think if it's too painful, people will
Yep.
quit. If it's just too much for them. So I would say it like this, I don't know, do 3 reps. In other words, just lift the weights 3 times
Mm-hmm.
if you can. And if that's it, that's it. Next week it might be 4 times, but do it every day or every other
Mm-hmm.
day, something like that. And that'll help burn fat off. Do what you can. Some people don't use weights. They'll just stretch their arms out and kind of do aerobics standing in
Yeah.
place.
Well, one thing my doctor did tell me, she said, kind of echoed what you just said. but get your heart rate up to about 140 or 150 per minute for what'd she say? I have to be careful here. I think it was like a half
20
20. It was
minutes.
a half an hour a day or something of that nature. Okay, so you're getting your heart rate up so that it's then working aggressively, and that's a key part of it as well. So, and you can do that doing different things, whether it's walking or running or swimming. I love to swim, or whatever your favorite exercise is. And for someone who's in an extreme situation, they might be able to do that while they're kind of what you might call sedentary, but doing their workout there at home. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, sorry, I keep interrupting you. My apologies. There's a thought that you inspired, and that is, I think YouTube is probably one of the greatest inventions in the world. I really do. And there are so many videos by professionals, people who know you more than you and I. And if I were one of these people, I think I would Google or look up on Yahoo, I mean on YouTube. I would look up exercising for very obese people and see what the experts recommend, and they you got to remember, for some reason when you lose weight, it helps the insulin, and it if you could go from, let's just take a drastic number. Let's say you went from 500 pounds to 200 pounds. I'm not sure you would have diabetes still.
Yeah,
I mean, for some people, I knew a police officer, a highway patrolman, who who was telling me that he had gained weight, and he was on insulin, he was on all the drugs, and he was not in shape, and he was not happy because you got to pass physical
oh yeah.
test, and but he lost weight, and I think he did it with no carbs. But anyway, and now he could run again, and but his diabetes
Hmm.
went away, and so it can be done. Again, folks, research it.
Yep.
John, what other thoughts do you
Well, that's
have on
about
this?
it. I've shared basically my experiences and what I've learned, and it's a rough. And I'll be okay. One more thing, it can it can lead to some serious depression if you don't handle it right. Okay. Now I've been able to not get totally depressed about it, but there's been times where I'll get depressed for a little while. I think, I'm just tired of fighting this. And so you gotta be able to be good to yourself mentally as well, and don't be afraid to go visit a professional and talk to them about it and get their input, and just realize that you're not alone. You know what I mean? You're not alone. You're not fighting this alone. You don't need to be angry at yourself. Don't do that for very long. You might want to get upset that you're eating too much sugar, but deal with it and move on, because it's a chronic disease. It's something that you have to deal with until you've kind of got it in remission. And if you can change your lifestyle so that your new habits are totally healthy for you and you've got it under control, just keep at it. Just keep at it and realize it's a battle, but you can win it.
Well, and another thought for you, folks, and that is, you go to your doctor before you do the exercise program, right? I mean, that's just what everybody says to do. But they've also got dietitians that insurance will cover. I've been through this where I went to a dietitian, and she was really good. She was able to give me substitutes for some things that, quite frankly, I didn't like
Mm,
them. So I didn't, they tasted like
mm-hmm.
cardboard. So I didn't really do them. But it was still beneficial to be able to go in and hear a dietitian's take on things. Well, instead of that, try this. Instead of this, try that. Now, dietitians, doctors, uh, non-doctors, we can all be wrong about things. I mean, I think as many people that are out there, not everybody will respond to the same diet or the same recommendations or whatever. Again, study it out. I think that's the one thing to do. Just get on the web and remember, The web, can't always trust it, but it can give you ideas, and then you go check them out with professionals who know what they're doing, as in licensed
Yep.
doctors. And I just I think there's a way out of this diabetes thing, but what I've learned from you, John, is it was sugar, lack of exercise, and not a lot of movement.
Yep. That was it. That.
Do you think
Yep.
that's was that the bottom
Yep.
line
And I
for
was
you?
very happy about my lifestyle. I was very happy until I went to visit that doctor
Yeah,
that day, and then I was sick. The
you know that
the
it's his
message is
fault.
our
It's his
message
fault.
today is that it's not your doctor's fault. Okay, and that yeah,
Oh,
our
okay,
message
okay.
today, and we're not encouraging you to go don't see a doctor, but just go with it. Whatever they, there you go. That's all I got to say, Dale.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't push my heart rate to a point where you feel like, hey, this isn't good. You don't want to die of a heart attack and on the treadmill and
Hmm.
stuff. I'd take it easy. I really would, and I would work into it. Hey, it took you years to get into the situation you're in. I would say give it a year or two of slow building.
Hmm.
And don't go beyond when your body says, okay, I'm about to choke on this. Okay, stop.
Yep.
That's it. That's a
Pain does
sign.
not necessarily equal progress. You don't need to go with the pain equals pain no gain problem or scenario. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to be, at our age, especially people who are over
Hmm.
60, maybe over 50 even, they're not going to be going to the gym, most of us, and doing squats and deadlifts and things like that. Um, at least not with the weights that the young bucks are
Hmm.
using. Um, I think when people go to a gym, they're embarrassed, maybe about their weight or how they look or that they're flabby or whatever. And I think they try to impress others
No.
when they go there, not look as novice as they are. And I just think
Yeah.
that's wrong. We're not fooling anybody
No.
if we do that. These guys who are fit, who are working out there, they know. They know that we're not professional or that we're not really good at weightlifting and stuff like that. I just say just be yourself and just say, yeah, I let myself get out of control and now I'm trying to get the weight off. And they'll go,
Yep.
good for you.
Yep.
Good for
Everybody
you.
has to. You have to start where you are and just improve. Just make a little step at a time, whether that's a literal step or just a psychological step or whatever it might be. Just start where you are and keep moving forward, and you'll get it.
Hey, how long did we say these podcasts were
I
going to
was
be?
shooting for 15 minutes. We're
You talk too
I
much.
do,
You
but I'm
really
so
do.
dang smart. And anyway, yep, we're about 40
Well,
minutes. That's about all I got for you today, Dale. Hey, I'm John,
I'm Dale.
and we are just two simple dudes. We'll talk to you again next week. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.